there about 15 foot. Just kind of roaming around the pocket. See his shadow back there? It's pretty badass. Active Target 2 XL. Definitely better than Active Target 2 on the scout mode.
What's up, guys? Welcome to the channel. If you've been here before, welcome back. Today we're talking about scout mode. That's right, we have the new Active Target 2 XL installed on the boat, and I mainly bought this to use in scout mode to try to catch some of those bedfish that are really hard to see with your eyes, or that you can't see with your eyes. And I'll let you know if I think it's worth it, if it was worth it to me to get this big new transducer to try to catch some of those bass that are really hard to see or that you can't see. And if you can find bass with this transducer, it's similar to Garmin's perspective mode. The same thing probably applies to Garmin. Please remember to subscribe, guys. We're trying to get to 10,000 subscribers. Thanks for watching. This is going to be a good one.
All right, guys. So, Active Target 2 XL. I bought this thing because, not because it's the latest and greatest. Well, it is. I mean, everybody wants the latest and greatest. But I bought it because I wanted to take a little bit more of a deep dive into perspective or scout mode. Lowrance calls it scout, Garmin calls it perspective mode. And you can see here there's a little bit of glare, but we've got some tires out in front of the boat here, and some sort of like an old sunk dock or something. There's a couple of fish on that, but this is a completely different animal. There goes a fish. It looks kind of like a bass that maybe I spooked. There's another fish here that could be a bass, but this is a completely different animal than Active Target in forward mode. And I haven't used the scout mode a whole lot in on the regular Active Target 2. There's quite a few fish right here, but we'll come back through and try to catch one of them. But from what I can tell, you do not have a large usable area. Like if you want to bed fish, I have caught some fish today using this. I'll clip those in the video. But this bright strip right here is the area where we're getting the best return, and that's because there's the transducer down there. Let me pull that up. There's that Active Target 2 transducer. But when it's in scout mode or perspective mode, whatever you want to call it, you're getting just a sliver of a cone, the same sliver that you get when it's in forward, but panning left to right will not sharpen your image. It just moves it. So we're on a Highland reservoir today, and to tell you the truth, guys, if you want to buy Active Target 2 XL for scout mode and you normally fish Highland reservoirs or lakes that aren't really flat, probably not going to be super useful for you unless you're just casting at cover. Like if you really want to bed fish with this thing, probably not super useful, because you get such a slim amount of your screen that's usable like this. And that's because the angle of the bank or whatever, and it's basically just a reflection. There's another fish there, pretty nice fish out next to that tree. But I mean, we can see it's very useful for finding fish. But if you're wanting to pinpoint bed fish, you're probably better off looking or just using your regular forward facing on Active Target 2, which is fantastic. I haven't updated my larger graph here because I've seen some chatter online that 26.1 update doesn't work great with the standard AT2 transducer. So mine's really dialed in and works perfect. So I've kind of left that alone. I'll do an updated video whenever they patch the update. I'll go ahead and install 26.2, I guess, on all the graphs or whatever they decide to call that. But you see where it drops off here? You lose your usable sliver of that screen, And honestly, guys, if you're not on a flat lake like Sandy Cooper or somewhere in Florida or something of that nature, or in the back of a bay, not going to be super useful. I've got kind of a flat bay back here in front of me. We'll go see if we can get a better image for you guys on that. But so far, Highland Reservoirs and Scout Mode, I would not suggest buying the Active Target 2 XL if you only intend to use it for this. I have not used it in forward mode yet. I'll do another video on that, but like I said, I'd rather do that on the big graph so you can see it better. But first impressions, Scout Mode and Highland Reservoirs, probably not a good combination unless you're just looking to cast at cover or something like that. Like I said, it's a completely different animal, kind of knowing what you're looking at and where it is in relation to where you're at in the front of the trolling motor. From what I can tell now, if I cast directly in line with the trolling motor, when it's pointing straight ahead, tends to be off to the side just a little bit. When you can see reeling your bait up, but it does tend to be off to the right a bit rather than straight in front of the boat. So we're still learning to use it, but first impressions, probably wouldn't buy it if you primarily fish Highland Reservoirs. Check out this fish catch and we'll get back to some more talk and check out this flat back of a pocket. There's a good one. Straight under the boat. Saw it swim by on that 2XL right there. You can see the wall over there. I saw the fish just kind of clip along the front of the boat, and I looked down. There she was. Nice one. Nice one. Haven't laid her eggs yet. All right, so that one we actually did see on the perspective mode. It just got off, but we did see it swimming in front of the boat. Kind of learning how and where to cast when you see something on the screen. But again, in this situation, forward mode would have been a better option. I don't know if you can see that right there on the left of the screen. There are some fish around those dock poles, and I can see the fish. I know they're there. It would be very useful for knowing where to cast, because I have a physical object that those fish are relating to. But again, forward mode would be superior for that. I use forward mode like that all the time, and I think forward still wins in this case. We got some fish swimming in front of the boat here, about 20 feet. Let's give them a little cast. And no bueno on that. Nope, I got one. He come off. So it is usable and it is useful, but forward mode is better. All right, guys, so as you can see, as we're working into this pocket, put this rod down here, we are getting more usable area out of that beam, because that slice is bouncing off more of the bottom. There goes a fish right there. I don't know if you can see that. It's like a pretty big one. And you can see him going on out. See that nice big shadow there? So when you get into more of a flat pocket, the effectiveness or the usability of the beam skyrockets. So the flatter your lake, the better this piece of equipment is going to work for you. There's a little block of concrete under this dock right here. Nice little shell bed in the water there. Probably a spot spawning on that at some point. Crazy how they can move those shells around. It's a lot of work doing everything by mouth, but they do it. So we're getting up into the flat part of this. I guess we're probably, I don't know, 3 foot deep. And the more shallow you get, the less usable area. There's like a sweet spot, which is on the shallow setting is probably 3 to 5 feet. Once you get shallow like this, your beam tightens up here and you lose the effective area again. There's a fish right there in front of the boat. Let's give that a cast. That might be one on the bed. But another thing to consider is, and this may be why it's not showing up that great right here, is the bottom composition. If you have a soft bottom, you're going to encounter another problem. And there are a lot of leaves and things like that around this lake. I don't know what kind of fish those are. That's what we saw swimming on screen. Looks like carp. Yep, those are carp. No, it's catfish. 3 channel cats swimming around up here in a foot of water. But your bottom composition is gonna kind of affect the useful area as well. For whatever reason, people in this lake, can't say I blame them, I would probably do the same, but they blow their leaves into the lake and they tend to collect in the pockets. And if they don't pull water for a while, those leaves in the fall or spring or whenever people decide to clean their yards up, those leaves collect in the backs of the pockets where this technology would probably be most useful, and they sit there for a while and they sink. So you get a thick layer of leaves on the bottom of the lake, and it cooks your return on scout mode or perspective mode. So again, some of you probably have a lot more experience with perspective mode than I do. Drop a comment below. Let me know some tips of a better way that I can utilize this. I'm just kind of taking a common sense approach rather than an experience approach with this. But from what I can tell, we don't have a lot of zones in highland reservoirs where this technology is going to be really useful. We got a bass set up. We got 2 bass set up on a bed right here. Let's pump the brakes for a minute. See if I can keep from spooking them. I don't know if you can see those bass right there. I'm gonna spook them probably. We've got a bass right here. He's swimming out right there. I don't know if you can see that. See him on my screen there. See the shadow at my thumb there. He's heading back over. See the shadow moving along? He's heading back over to his bed now. There's the fish. But if you're trying to find fish with this thing, probably be pretty difficult. That's a big bass. I mean, it's a 3 or 4 pounder. But let me back off of it a little bit, see if we can catch it. If I can get it in the prime area of that beam, yeah, we can see the fish. Oh, he's right there. Let's see if we can catch that fish real quick. But if you're going along hunting for fish with this, probably not going to find a whole lot. Like, I can see how it'd be pretty useful once you find the fish with your eyes or your forward mode. But as far as just going down the bank and looking for fish on your perspective mode, you can see them when they're swimming around, but if they're sitting still on a bed, it's going to be pretty hard to distinguish, especially if they're close to the bottom, if it's a bass. So, and if you're seeing bass swimming on your scout mode, again, you're going to be better off in most cases, less than, or if you're more than, I don't know, 5 feet deep, you're going to be better off using regular forward mode. And it's a lot more precise when you're in forward mode because you've got your beam turned the other way. See, I've already spooked this bass right here. The female completely left. The male's working his way back up to the his bedding area there. It's actually a really big male. Let's see if it'll lock down somewhere. But again, even with this fish, I could probably jack my transducer up and see it better with that, but I don't need to because I can see it with my eyes. So there's a lot of things to consider when you're trying to catch one using your scout or perspective mode. He's starting to tighten up a little bit there. We might be able to catch him. He's already seen the boat. Probably not going to be able to catch that bass. He didn't spook off that time. I cast it right on his head. Let's see. The one time a year power poles are extremely useful is when the bass are bedding, and I do not have power poles. Drop a comment below. Let me know if you have power poles and were they worth it? Do you fish a highland reservoir or a deeper lake? And if so, is it useful more than 1 month out of the year? I kind of want some just so I can park with them. I'm kind of envious when I see people at the dock. They just pull up and drop their poles and park. But fishing wise, are they useful? Has the Ultrex and Spot Lock kind of taken over in most cases on highland reservoirs? Are those more effective for keeping you in place than power poles, because they have I don't know what, 8-10 feet max that they're useful? So here's our fish right here. There's the fish in relation to the boat. There we go. You can see it on the graph right there. Let's see if we can get him to pull up here. There he goes. That's the shadow, and that's the fish in front of the boat right there. Looks like I actually caught a smallmouth out of a bed with 2 largemouth. Pretty nice one. But again, wasn't really looking at it on here. Could kind of keep tabs and see that they were still there, but I think forward mode probably would have been better. Let's give that a try. All right guys, so forward mode, you saw what we saw on Scout. Now let's take a look at the same fish. I'm pretty sure there were more fish on there aside from that smallmouth, but let's take a look at the same fish with forward mode, and you can immediately see it right there at 30, right there at 30, about 32 feet, 30, somewhere abouts right there is that fish. See the bank and where that bed was in relation. So let's see if we can be a little more effective bed fishing with forward mode. And I know this works because I do it all the time. Now again, I might have some settings off, or see those fish right there? I might have some settings off or something of that nature, but those are small fish there. That's not it's not the big bass we want. But drop a comment below if you got some tips on using the Scout mode. But general first impression is, for spawning fish, at least in highland reservoirs, there's that fish at 20 feet going back up there. That's the big one. First impressions, I think I pissed him off to the point that he doesn't want to go back to his bed. First impressions are, I don't know, guys. Forward's better for bed fishing. There's bass right there, 30 feet. But first impressions, forward mode, on Highland reservoirs at least, look at that. It's superior for bed fishing. Nice one off the scope. Mean. Yeah. Nice one. Hook fell out. Barely got him. A 3-pounder. Not bad.